So I'm just going to trace out the path of the oxygen. So the oxygen comes in through this port here that's blocked off now with this red cap, right? So this is our oxygen inlet. There's a pressure sensor right here, and that is going to decide whether the machine turns on or off. It'll only turn on when you have sufficient pressure coming into the inlet, right? It's usually like 35 or higher, right? So from here, it goes off into this T. One line runs up here, over, and into this gauge. That gauge is the inlet gauge, and it just tells us what our inlet pressure is. You can see inlet right there. Okay, let's come back and do a fast move. So you can see this sort of larger line here. It comes around the back, and it goes in to the suction side of the first stage cylinder. All right, let's go back around and look at the cylinder. So here we can see the cylinder. There's a piston rod here, and a piston moves up and down and compresses the gas. All right, up. Compresses the gas. From there, it comes out through here. And it might look like it goes into this block, but it comes down below on this line here. All right? It comes around, and it goes around one of these, the outside band, to cool. Does that make sense? From here, it comes up, and then it goes into this block here. Now, there's a T here, so some of the pressure goes to the second gauge, that's the first stage gauge, and some of it goes to the second stage head. This is the suction side of the second stage head. Yeah. Again, you got the piston moving around here. There's a piston inside there, all right? Compressed here to cool off. All right. So it comes out that loop and comes up through here. This is a filter, the line filter. From here, it comes into this T. The pressure reading comes back out to this gauge. See that? And here it goes into this block. This block is a minimum pressure valve. So it won't let any of the compressed oxygen out until the oxygen reaches a minimum pressure. That minimum pressure is 1500 psi. And the reason you have that minimum pressure is there's a floating piston in here, and you need some pressure on the head in order to push that piston back down after you compress. So that's why you have this minimum pressure valve. If it goes, once it gets higher than 1500 psi, it comes out through here. This is a check valve, making sure the oxygen can't flow back into it. And then here is a pressure switch here, just like the first one in the beginning, except this one is set for much higher. So this one will shut the machine off if the pressure goes above whatever you set it at. Generally, they're set at about 2000 psi, around there. And then it would flow out through this port right here, which is blocked off. So you have three gauges here. You have the inlet, the first stage, and the second stage. So this is reading the pressure of the oxygen being delivered to the RIX. This is the pressure after the first stage, and this is the pressure after the second stage. If you look behind these pressure gauges, you'll see that there's three, these are called pressure release valves, and they each have different settings. So for the first gauge, it's a much lower setting. I think it's around, that's what that is, 3.4 bar. This one is set to around 24 bar, and this is set to around 250. I should redo the audio on that. I forget what the PSI is. Sorry. Oh yeah, so this is 50 PSI-ish. This is about 750 PSI, and this is set to about 2,200 PSI. Is that right? Yeah, 2,250 PSI. So in the event that any stage over compresses the oxygen, you have too much oxygen coming in, maybe it's, it's higher than the pressure setting here, this will release the extra pressure out. If your first stage is doing overcompressing, it would release, and you would release the oxygen through here. And then same thing on the end. If you were overcompressing the third stage, it would release there. And that's a safety feature so that you don't blow out any of these cylinders, have an explosion.